Hello and welcome to the first session of Godbound here for 2021. This is a quarterly game, so we're going to be going through the next 3 months here, which is a little unusual. I usually do monthlies or 2-month games, but this is a game I really like. And I think deserves some space to play out in, especially because you get really awesome in it, and giving you a little more space gives you time to adjust to the new gifts and powers and things that you've gotten and get a chance to show them off. My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this session is part of the Gauntlet Gaming Calendar, which is an online gaming community, group, club, however you want to say it. We have a ton of games on the calendar each month that people can sign up for. It's supported by Patreon. We also have a podcast network. We have a blog. There's a publishing arm. We have a lot of things. You can find out all about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. Right now, we have ads for the Between Our New Game kind of on that page, so you don't see the Gauntlet stuff. I'm going to move those around. So if you go to the landing page and you're like, why am I here? This doesn't have any Gauntlet stuff on it. That is, in fact, our page. So check that out. So what I'm going to do is start with a little rundown of how I see the game, walking through the cats, getting that set for everyone. So the basic concept is we have a high fantasy world. And in the distant past, various groups, mortals, started to figure out ways to draw on, echo, use, reproduce divine powers, divine abilities. And that led them to moving up sort of into the heavens eventually. On the ground in the world, they created great theosophical machines and devices and things that were used for the various conflicts between different groups that had different visions of things, that built gods to serve their purposes. And eventually it resulted in a war in the heavens that shattered everything, destroyed the gods, left behind some things, some forces. It's a world that is absent gods, but not necessarily potent forces, spirits, relics, all of those things. We're a ways past that, centuries past that great fall. But what has happened now is that some people have started to manifest these divine abilities. They have words that are particular aspects of nature and so on that they are bound to. We don't know why this is happening. That's in fact actually kind of not even a question in this game. It just is. And our characters are trying to figure out what to do with that. So we have a broken world, shattered heavens, characters that are getting these new weird powers. It's a little bit post-apocalyptic in that things have kind of fallen apart, and there's a lot of decay and things to be found. Our aim here, what we're going to be doing is your heroes. You are heroes. You are going to be moving around this world. You are going to be exploring. You're going to be seeing sights, and you're going to be putting right what went wrong, solving problems as you go along. There are people that don't like your existence, that don't think that the gods coming back is a great thing, and there are people, of course, people who want to harness your powers in this, but they may not recognize that you are divine things. They may just think you're powerful wizards, and you're going to show them that they are terribly wrong. That in fact you are much more than that. So this is a kind of a travel exploration game. We might have a home base that we return to, something like that. But I do want us to have a chance to go places and see things in this world. With that, sort of the tone is high fantasy heroic. While this is a fallen world, you are people that are going to solve problems. And this is a game that one could loosely call an OSR game. Rich said it was just D&D. We had this little fight on Sunday about this. It is an OSR game, but we're playing a much more sort of story-driven goal. We have an ethos. We're going to be establishing safety tools and talking about purposes and things like that. And we'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of the system in a bit. I know all of you are familiar with the layered set of safety tools that I use, lines and veils, which I see that a number of people have filled out, and I will check in on that again, but just before we do introductions. But we've also got the ask first, meaning that if we were to hit something with it, if you'd want a check-in on that material before myself or anybody at the table used it. The X card, of course, is on the table to mark out material that is problematic, objectionable, bothers you, feels wildly off tone. Any of those things are reasons to use the X card. Again, you don't have to explain or justify your use. You just mark it. We might ask where we need to cut to, but then we move on. One good thing to say about the X card is it's especially good if we find that we've maybe started to slide over towards a line or towards a veil and maybe we haven't caught it yet. X card is a great time to remind me of those kinds of things. And then lastly, we have the open door policy, open table, meaning if you need to step away, if you need to leave for whatever reason, you can do that. You don't have to explain yourself. Things happen. If you're going to be back, maybe mention in the chat, but that is not a requirement. The other thing I want to mention is a specific thing in this game, and I talked about this a little bit in the email, is we're putting an ask first on mind control. And I've said that any words or powers that are very clearly directing people, actively against their will are things that we don't want to see in the game. But there may be some other things that influence emotions, that influence passions, things like that. We will check in on those things because that's one of those cases where we want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with it and we don't feel like our characters are turning into monsters in any way, shape, or form. And if we do find that somebody's chosen something that does do that, we'll allow things to be swapped out or whatever changes to be made as are necessary. So with that all in mind, what I want to talk about is our palette, and I've got a tab for that here. I've established some basic premises for the game. In the box text, I've kind of got the Godbound premises there laid out very quickly. And then I've got all that I know about this world, which is the land that you're in is in an inner ocean. There are multiple islands of varying size, nation state status, and so on. Outside to the fringes, there are 3 empires. We've given them names, but we don't know exactly what they are. And what I want to add to that is they have not been here for a couple of decades. For whatever reason, there was a closing of the oceans until about 23 years ago. That's gone, and now those empires have probably started to move in and take a look at the area, and they may be agents that we may be facing, or maybe facing local things. But I just want to put those in as things that are on the table. Now, the palette, borrowed from Microscope, allows us to establish some things we'd like to see. That means stuff we'd really like to have in the game, and especially added to that, things we'd like to have in the game that maybe we wouldn't normally assume. If there's anything like that. So if there's a particular style of play, you want to emphasize things you want to do more, say that, and we can have a conversation about that. And then ban is for elements that we don't want to have in the game, particular things about from fantasy genre. We don't want to have anything like that. So that is on the table, and we're going to start now. I'm going to go around and ask you, and it is absolutely fair to say I haven't gotten anything. It is absolutely fair to do that. Just so I am going to put you on the spot, but you don't feel obligated. So Dan, is there anything that you want to put on the palette right now?
I like kind of dense, populated, cosmopolitan cities.
Okay.
So I think that this is a populated area, and that at least a few of the settlements are fairly robust, thriving cities.
So possibly traveling around, going from major city to major city kind of thing. Okay.
That's okay with the group.
Patrick, is there anything you have as an add or a ban?
So I forget. It was last time we talked. You were mentioning like a previous game of Godbound that you'd played, where you said they ran across none or almost no other God touched people.
Yeah, they didn't run into any Godbound in the big long campaign that I ran, even the short one that I ran, but they did run into like corpses of gods and things like that. So you would like other Godbound to be present?
I think it would be interesting to run across other Godbound or other people that have picked up, like you talked about, like the fallen tech and weaponry of the heavens, like people that have picked up God powers, even if they're not necessarily integrated, but like some other godly weirdness out there in the world.
Sure. So other Godbound or pseudo Godbound present. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler.
Yes.
I have a sense of maybe what you're going to ask for. I know you want a ship travel, right?
I do. I want swashbuckly sea stuff.
Okay. So ship travel, ocean stuff. Okay. Sherry.
I like the idea that one of the things is that because there were gods before, there are still sites that where the gods once were that have a resonance with the previous god that was there, that are like easy places to pull power to or something like that. So these would be contested areas for Godbound, if that makes any sense, or a place to go to discover something new about your powers, or to bring on a new, to like take on a new ability within your own gifts.
Old shrines, old temples, old places where battles were fought, things like that.
Right. And the god there wouldn't have had to been like kind of like you or anything, but that you can go to that place and maybe find from the resonance there some part of your own gifts that fits in the shape of this place or this.
And of course, there may be some kind of foe or evil that needs to be cleared out before.
No, not that ever. Never,
okay.
Never there. You just have to buy a ticket.
Just have to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Dan, let me swing back to you. Do you have anything else you want to add to the palette?
I guess I like large fantasy beasts.
How large are we talking? Are we talking dragons? Are we talking
Yeah,
city
like-
swallowers?
Like house sized, yeah.
Okay. That we
And
can do.
maybe they're not aggressive. They live around you,
Okay.
or they might be.
So there are sort of animals or fauna, right? Yeah. So megafauna that exists in this area.
Yeah, the megafauna. Yes.
Yeah. Patrick, other things you want to add to this list, to add or to ban?
I have been trying to think of anything in particular.
Sure.
Nothing's coming to mind at the moment. But one thing that I've been enjoying playing a game of Mutama with another group, and one thing I've been enjoying there is coming up with the folklore and legends of this weird little world. And so if we could discover or create or improv or whatever legends, urban fairy stories, sort of things like that of this world and its history sort of as we go through, I think that'd be a fun way to explore the world.
Yeah, certainly. I've been looking at the Thousand Island materials, and there's a lot of interesting items and folklore and rumors and things like that that I hope to borrow to bring to bear. So yeah, that's great. Tyler?
This may already be in your mind. And I don't, I love doing politics. I don't know if everybody likes doing politics, but I do like intrigue and getting all enmeshed in this expansion that we're seeing out of these empires.
Okay, that we can do. Sherry, back to you. You are muted.
I think we have a lot on our plate.
A lot of play. Okay. Dan, anything else you want to add? Patrick? Tyler? Okay. So we have our palette. We have the stuff that we want to bring into play on these 3 months worth of play. So let's see what that means. So let's come to our characters. And I just want to confirm with everybody the words that you've chosen. And see if you have any questions about those at this moment. So Patrick, what are the 3 that you chose?
So I went with night, fear, and shapeshifting. The idea of like a walking nightmare or like a dream god sort of idea, but shifted towards that edge of fear and nightmare things. Imagine someone who's with the shape-shifting and the ability to like embody other people's fear, who's someone whose form and appearance is very fluid and shifting.
Excellent, excellent. And the fear word has that base morale thing, and fear things. So we'll try and make sure that we remember that, and that we have that as an issue that your character can deal with. Sometimes
around me, it's harder to scare them.
Yeah. So I definitely want to do that. Sometimes with the passives that are on words, it's easy to forget those things. Sherry, which 3 have you chosen?
I chose artifice, I chose bow, and I chose fertility. My idea was like a loom goddess of sorts, or essentially a domestic goddess of machines of the household. One of the things is a lot of thread craft and stuff like that. The most basic machine looks a lot like a bow, for essentially winding thread and those sorts of things, and cleaning and that stuff. So that was kind of what I started with. It was literally the picture I had in my head was that sort of thing for making thread or yarn when I picked the bow to go with this. So that was kind of what I was thinking of. So sounds very domestic and in place, but I think that's the reason that they're traveling.
And we know that the artificer has great things, especially if you have the resource or materials at hand, or you have a word that can bring those resources to hand. Bow is just awesome. Fertility is interesting, and that allows you to change your constitution score. Okay. And invisible defense. Okay. Then that brings us to Dan. What are the three that you've chosen?
I chose, I was really trying to go the opposite of what I chose when I last played this game. So I chose Sun, Knowledge, and Journeying. And I think there's kind of a bit of a enlightenment vibe going on here where this is the journeying is yes, physical journeying, but also sort of the journey of learning and acquiring knowledge.
Nice. Journey is a good solid word. Knowledge allows you to set your intelligence or wisdom score higher, and then you can always just glow with the sun word. Okay. And then back to the start column, I have my thing scooted over and I was like, that's unusual. Patrick never takes the first column. That's because Tyler did. But I was too scrolled over. I've got this new mouse that does odd scrolling. I'm still getting used to. So what three words have you chosen?
Yeah, I chose purple. You know, I'll grab purple.
Oh, fair enough.
There. I chose sea, I chose birds, and I chose theft. Or thief. Theft.
Ooh, nice. Theft is nice. Birds, as I think I mentioned in the email, if you create birds that are used as weapons, are going to be attacked, we can define those as manifested spirits rather than actual animals getting slaughtered in this. So we'll keep that in mind. And you've got some, of course, sea word. We've got a lot of water here, so that is great. So what I would like to let you do is walk through, if you haven't already, the character creation tab, basically assigning your stats. You will note that some of the things on the character keeper are highlighted in pink. That is a calculated item. It should calculate that correctly if you haven't written something in there. I'm pretty sure that those numbers are right. So should figure all those things out. So figure out your stats, choose your gifts. You'll choose a weapon, an armor class. And then the last thing I'd like you to think about is I'd like for you to come up with one of your facts at least before we get to introductions. So you're going to start with 3 facts. Facts are things that you call on during the game, like because of I'm this, or because I've done this, or because I know this thing, I get a +4 to this attribute check. Essentially adds to your attribute check. So it's both a way to give color and also a mechanical bonus. And the 3 they have are origin, past career, and a meaningful relationship, be it foe or friend or whatnot. And this is a chance to establish any details about places or people or things like that. So I'm going to let you work on that for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we will do some introductions, look at lines and veils, get those on the table and all of that. Okay. I'm going to stop talking. Oh, you will also notice when you go to the NPCs tab that the top line is for PCs, so you can put your pictures there. And so you can put your name and things. I've even color coordinated it to your character keeper columns. So
Boy, my rolls stayed right at the same thing, 13s and 14s.
now, after you've rolled, if you decide you don't want to roll your stats, you can just assign those the array. Rolling does
He
not.
rolled fabulously. I did that too, and I got all 13s and 12s and 11s with a single 16. So Tyler came out way ahead.
Okay.
I bought that 18. And Lowell, will you mention again kind of what the fact should be in a theory?
So a fact can be like child of the streets, or it can be last monk of the order of something. It's kind of just a descriptor that you can work into things. In 13th age, it'd be called backgrounds, or think of them as aspects from fate is another way to imagine them.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
One of the other mechanical things I want to talk about that kind of impacts your gifts and gift choices is you always have the option to do miracles. And basically, a miracle is essentially, I don't have this power, but I want to do something like make an attack or defense or so on that falls outside of the gifts you've chosen. And so always remember that you have those and you can kind of work them to your particular words. They require you to commit effort for the day, even if it's just an instant thing. So they're a little more pricey, but it's always those choices. You're not entirely limited by your gifts.
Lowell, my armor class. Since I get to start with the base 3.
Yeah, you will write that in, overriding the calculation there.
Okay.
And it's pretty awesome.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. And was there somewhere we pick up put weapons?
What you can do is write the name of the weapon in the space where it says melee weapon or where it says ranged weapon. That's the easiest way to do it.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay.
So Lowell,
Yeah.
Lowell, all those divine gifts that like set your AC to 3. Does your dexterity then affect that, or does it just
Nope.
sit at 3?
It's 3.
Gotcha.
Because that's what I need to roll or under to hit you.
Gotcha.
Oh no, actually no. It's basically what it is I need to beat a 20, so that's what I add to my attack bonus to try and hit you. So a 3 is as low as that gets, I think, in the game.
Gotcha.
So again, everything is roll high in this game. Another thing we're going to be
Basically
using.
worth it.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing we're going to be using is we are going to be using an escalation die for any kind of combat sequence. It'll start at a 0, and it'll go up by 1 tick up to a maximum of 6. And whatever the escalation die, you get to add that to your attack rolls. It does mean that I will scoot the bad guys up a tiny bit, but it's also a way of making it so that we're not in the depths of the fight and the D20 is continuing to drive you insane. We had that in the big fight in the last session of the game that Dan was in, where there were some people who were like, I'm gonna, oh, that's another whiff. Okay, I'll see you next round.
Is there weapon damage? Is there a listing of like equipment somewhere?
It is very abstracted. If you look on the character creation tab, column C, you go down a little bit.
Ah, gotcha.
It's got the damage numbers.
Thank you.
And damage works quite differently in this game. Basically, when you roll damage, you'll roll like your D6 or D8 or D10 with your appropriate bonus, dexterity or strength. And we will look at the damage roll table. And you can do no points of damage. You can do 1 point of damage. You can do 2 points of damage, or you can do 4 points of damage. Now you might be going, that doesn't seem like much, but in D&D terms, that's levels worth of damage, full hit dice worth of damage there. So that will be just a few blows to take down a pretty horrendous creature. And then if you're fighting normal folks, if you're engaged with them, you always get to roll the fray die. Now that's just incidental things where troops you just happen to dispatch them when they're around you. This is definitely a game that really equipment tracking, gold tracking, those kinds of things don't really enter into the picture very much.
Well, would you be okay with my not spending my last gift point for now?
Absolutely, 100%. Feel
There's
free
so
to
many.
hold off.
So many to choose from.
Yeah. Tyler, if I were to come to you and say, hey, tell us about your character, would you be almost ready to do that?
Think I would.
Okay, let me quickly go over lines and veils before we get too much further, so we're all on the same page. We have lines on dental horror, harm to children, homophobia, and sexual assault. And then we have veils on eye injuries, harm to animals, suicide and torture. Then we have ask firsts for epidemics, mind control, PC betrayal, and sexual content. So those are the lines and veils as we have them right now. We will check again next session and so on, because it is a living document. Tyler. Ransom. Oh. Here's an interesting name. I think I've heard that one before.
I've used it though a few times. I like it as a name. Ransom, the Raptor of the Waves. He is, as far as gods, I guess. I mean, he is a god of mariners, probably most specifically mariners of questionable legality. He personally is his origin. He is a son of a gun, which in very literal terms means he was born between the decks of the ship. Doesn't really know for sure who his father or mother were. His earliest memories are being on the ship. The company raised him. And he has been at sea all of his life on various boats, which makes me guess that he is pretty young, since you say the seas have just sort of opened.
Well, I would assume they'd be sailing around the island, but sailing to the other continents was cut off. So,
okay. Well, cool then. So yeah, he might have a little age to him then, a little bit. He is, let's see, I guess I could go down some stuff straight up.
Sure.
14 strength, 18 dex, 13 con. His dex is coming off of his theft. I bought a gift which let me turn something into an 18.
Nice.
And so when his dexterity has sort of a quirk to it, and his hands will kind of blur, almost get a little shadowy, like wisps of shadow. They're moving so fast when he gets going. Let's see. He has a 13 con, 14 int, 13 whiz, 13 charisma. He uses a cutlass and a pistol, though the truth is more than likely he is attacking when he's in melee with his birdiness.
I do want to say, if I may, I like to suggest, just because that's a rare fire item, like that's the equivalent of someone having a magic item kind of thing for rarity around here. Is that okay? Just so we don't have a lot of firearms amongst the local populace.
So you'd like for me to change it off?
No. I love the idea of you having this weird pistol and almost no one else does, and maybe people don't even quite know what it is.
And it is that kind of 1700 single shot flintlock.
Oh yeah.
Pirate, more the more usefulness of it is you fire once, then you turn around and start clubbing people with the butt of it.
Excellent.
He let's see. He, as we said, he has C, which allows him to breathe in water, can swim at really high speeds, can see perfectly underwater. And I can grant those benefits to my companions. I also have immunity to cold, but I can't give that to other people. I have birds, and I do have a pet parrot because, I'm a pirate. Those bound to the word of birds can fly, so I can fly. I can communicate with birds. Avians will willingly do most anything I say, but they tend to be a little on the, flighty side, so they will lose attention after a while. And I have theft, which is I can invariably pick any mundane lock, evade any mundane trap, sneak past or pickpocket any lesser foe with no chance of failure, provided I do some modicum of discretion, and I can overcome magical locks, traps, and barriers by committing effort. My gifts, I have Raptor's Red Plunge, which is pretty awesome. I commit effort, and for the scene, I can choose a visible target within a mile, and then I instantly will be next to the target, provided there's no barrier between them that cannot be flown around. For the remainder of the scene, I could use my move action to bolt next to them, however far they may move, provided they remain within a mile. If the target is a lesser foe, I may use my attack to automatically disembowel them or pick them up, killing them or rendering them utterly helpless until released. I have Feathered Mantle, which lets me change into birds. Anything, nothing smaller than a hummingbird, nothing larger than the largest mundane bird in the realm. I'm guessing that's things like albatrosses or great owls, that sort of thing. Doesn't alter my special abilities and doesn't gain any non-natural abilities possessed by the bird. The change lasts for as long as desired, can be reverted as a turn action. If I commit effort, I can transform other people. They do get a chance to save if they don't want to do it, I suppose, but I can make somebody a hummingbird, which is pretty funny. Lesser foes get no chance to resist. And it remains as long until I release them or it's dispelled. I have Lord of the Waters, which lets me transform into any non-magical sea creature larger than a shrimp and smaller than a kraken. Wow, a kraken. You can speak to and command all natural sea life, so I'm like Aquaman. I can sense every living creature under or on the water within a mile, summoning such life to my presence. As I need. Intelligent creatures need not obey my summons or commands if they don't really want to. And ships or fleet in my company are impervious to storms and reefs, which is awesome. I have Body of Water, which where flesh flows around dangers and encapsulates toxins. My natural armor class is 3, and I'm immune to poisons. I can apply poisons by touch if I've previously swallowed or been struck by them, thus ejecting the toxin. AC doesn't improve by shield or armor. Talons and beak commit effort. The Godbound grows sharp talons, a razor beak, piercing feathers, or some other natural weapon weapon appropriate to the avian. These melee weapons do D10 damage the first time each scene that the user makes a plunging dive attack from an altitude of at least 50 feet. The attack is automatic hit and the damage is rolled twice, taking the better result. Nice. And then finally, I took Excellence of the Word, which let me take a stat up to an 18, and I did Dex from Thief.
So let me ask you this. At what age do you think you started to manifest these abilities? Was it as a teen? Was it as a young man? Was it fairly recently? How do you imagine that?
I think the first thing that got noticed is that when I was in that, 11, 12, 13 range, when I'm, a powder monkey or whatever sort of thing that you'd be on the ship running around, handing out ammunition and helping, I was considered lucky. Storms avoided us. We always got over those reefs. We always managed, and I think that was probably my first manifested power. And but it really is, kind of in puberty that things began to become apparent, and probably by the time I'm in my early 20s is when I've gotten the understanding that something strange has happened, that this has happened to me.
So you have an innate understanding that it's not sorcery, it's not magic, this is something different, it's divine. What do you think of that? Does that scare you? Are you into it? What do you imagine?
I think I put on the bravado of, it's perfectly appropriate. You know, I'm the best sailor. Obviously, I should have these things. I think underneath it all, I'm worried why. Why me? What does it mean? And you don't get anything for free in this world. What am I going to be beholden to or responsible for because of it?
Awesome. Awesome. I think that gives us a good sense of who you are there. Thank you. Let us then come to Patrick. Tell us about your character.
So my character's name is Tassos. I don't have a cool epitaph yet. I feel left out. They, them pronouns. And they have, let's see, stat-wise, a very high constitution, with that idea of if I'm going to be turning into things that people are afraid of, they're either going to run away or try and hit me. So I expect to be hit a lot.
Okay.
I not very good dexterity, wisdom all right, intelligence and strength all right. I have on light armor. I think that's in the hides variety. I have sort of a picture of like a jacket there, and I think it's like thicker leathers that it sort of looks like. It's a bit shaped, but it's a bit anime, like it goes everywhere in the wind. The
reinforced long coat from Exalted, which is the cool looking armor. Okay, yeah.
His body underneath is, when he's not being someone specific, it's sort of blank and starlight shifting with glowing eyes. I'll get there. With night, I can see perfectly in darkness. I don't need to sleep, and my actions will never accidentally wake someone up, which I think is super cool passive. With fear,
we have to steal that for Changeling. That's a great ability.
Yeah, it's really good. Let's see. I'm never unwillingly afraid, and visible allies get morale bonuses. Visible enemies get morale penalties. And then shape-shifting, I'm immune to being shape-shift. I like my shape where it is, and I can say that it stays there. And I can do some light healing once per day as I just sort of smooth away wounds. For my origin fact, I went with one foster family to the next.
Interesting.
In that way of, I think the sort of early tells of his powers were like the ability to sort of pick up on people's fears, and the abilities to like, he affects dreams of people dreaming around him. They affect dreams of people dreaming around them. So I think it was this sort of like haunted child sort of story where I'd be with one family for a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and then it would just get too overwhelming for them, and I'd have to go find somewhere else to live. Typical role-playing character, so to orphan, who knows where those parents went.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this: that suggests that maybe you were in an organized urban area where they had a system for doing that, or where you could kind of find things. Okay, does that seem right?
Yeah, we talked about like those some very large, dense cities. So maybe there was like a guild or an organization, charitable organization, that had taken on this sort of like looking after the orphans, setting up a sort of fantasy level of what a foster care system would be.
I'm going to ask you this now. For later, I'm going to have you come up with a name for that city, but not now. Not now. Not now. Tell us about the gifts that you have chosen.
So I have Know the Fears Within, which lets me look at someone and understand things that they're afraid of, and either take that fear away or make it much, much worse. There's the Still Silence of Sleep, where I can try and put a group of people to sleep, and anyone that I can see, I can dictate their dreams if I'm watching a sleeping person. And I can send and receive messages through dreams with my fellow Pantheon members. There's Plasmic Body, where I can soften and liquefy my form. I can pass through any barrier that liquids could get through. I can hold a shape, but I have no solidity to me, so I can't really hurt people or use weapons, but I'm also immune to any non-magical damage. So that again goes with the idea of people might be trying to hit me a lot, so that's
Fair
my
enough,
sort of
yeah.
defensive end. Fair Mortal Mean, where I can take on any humanoid form that I want to. It can either be a shape and face of my creation, or I can be trying to mimic someone, in which case I get their voice and mannerisms, but not necessarily what they know. The Claws That Catch, what's the difference between an action and an on-turn action?
On turn just means that it is used on your turn, and at least it doesn't cost you any effort unless you put the extra effort in, I believe.
Gotcha. So I can, whatever form I'm in, I can call up claws or natural weaponry, or D10 magical, and they can do a venom to kill or incapacitate. And against mobs, they're super useful, like do maximum damage. And then Monsters of the Id, where I can call someone's fear into being and summon an attacking instance of a thing that they're afraid of that will keep trying to attack them, is very good against them, but can attack or hurt other people around them as well.
Excellent. So it sounds to me like you started being this way in your youth, right?
I think there was definitely a teenage cascade of body changing and powers emerging, but yes, from baby toddlerhood, some of these powers were peaking out.
And which do you think manifested first? Which of your three gifts first came to you?
I think consciously, the first thing that really exploded out would have been the fear.
Okay.
Stuff, the seeing clearly people's fears and being able to manifest a version of their fear, I think was probably the first big active thing they could control.
What does knowing people's fears and being able to use them against them do to someone growing up? How has that changed? I mean, and where are you now regarding how you view that fear causing?
I imagine it had a lot of very strange effects on them, but I think this power and mantle sort of came together in the sense of a divine presence for dream, a god of dreams, god of nightmares. There's this impulse in them to hunt out these fears, to reach out and shape the dreams around them. I think it's this drive that they can't always control to confront people with those fears, and so it's power and responsibility curse sort of at the same time for them. I think how they've come to deal with it over time is finding ways that they think it's worth it or worthy to put certain people through certain fears. I'm not quite sure what that is, whether it's a completely altruistic, I'm trying to build people up by making them face their fears, or that there are people that should be faced and punished with their fears. I'm not quite sure what that is, but the being able to put their own philosophy on top of these impulses, I think, is the thing that has let them come to terms with this mantle of powers.
Excellent. That brings us to Sherry. Sherry, tell us about your character.
Okay, so my character is essentially the last child born among a group of widows that were sort of exiled to an island with the sense that they would die there. Essentially, their husbands, their village had been emptied out and conscripted into an army for a ruler. And when that was done, instead of watching out for this village or even just leaving it in peace, the rest of them were picked up and moved off so that their lands could be used for his nobles. And so in exile on a place that they knew nothing of, it was mostly women and children. She was the last one born there. And they had to make it do and get by. And so when she was born, they took her as an omen and actually put a lot of ritual power as they knew it into her. And so it was the thing of, in that time while she was growing up, they built and created a sustainable thing. They built an entire loom from a grove of banyan trees that like spanned the one perimeter of the island, that they planted plants to eat and plants to make more textiles from. And their whole prayer set was about binding the one who had cast them here and tying themselves back to the world at some point.
Excellent. Tell us about your words.
So my words are, and it's a strange ones, but I kind of went a little random because as I had some that I thought of, and then other people picked them, and that's awesome because then you have to come up with something completely new, and I did. And so I went, okay, I'm going to think of a thing. And I thought of the loom, and then I'm like, oh, thread making. And so I remembered one of the tools that I've seen, like when people are spinning or spindling or doing the things with particularly plant fibers, they have a tool that's very much like a bow. So I was like, okay, I'll do bow. And wait, I want a loom, so I need it to be a machine. And then I went with that, and of course, the purpose of all of that is for, to live well and, prosperity, but not prosperity in the wealth sense, but prosperity in the doing well and living well. So I went with fertility, which seemed to be the closest. Of course, it's full of terrible disease spells, but anyway.
It is.
Those are the curses.
They're all a lot
I'm
of
not
curses.
a child of curses yet, but someday I may be.
So what gifts did you then pick?
Okay, so what I went with is, let's see here. I went with a second spring. So this is a spell that all allies in sight are refreshed, regaining vigor as if well fed and rested, and healing 1d6 hit points of damage, plus the Godbound's level. So unlike most healing effects, recipients don't have to commit effort to benefit from this blessing. So it's an easy and fairly complete healing spell, but it's also that idea of being in her circle is being in a place of healing and giving. And, essentially that safety of society and people taking care of you. And then Bolt of Invincible Skill, which is one of the bowl ones. It's always hit an unaware or inanimate target, no matter how small or how far under cover it may be. Optionally, I may commit effort to the end of the scene to ensure that my current or next ranged attack does maximum damage and hits on anything but a natural roll of 1. Which is pretty handy, but the idea was actually more about the hitting the inanimate object, no matter how small. That sort of idea of precision and threading the thing is that kind of idea of precision is what I was going for. So, but all the other things are lovely. So I'm not going to, turn my nose up at those. And then the other bow gift I took was Seeking Fight, which is choose a visible target, commit effort to the end of the turn. Your ranged attacks, seek them out regardless of range, treat them as AC 9, and completely ignore cover provided there is at least some path for my arrow to reach them. And that is that sense of vengeance should I meet the big foe, whose name I know, but I have never seen and have no comprehension of. And then for my artifice, I have 10,000 tools. It's my natural gifts of creation are augmented. Instead of requiring a full round to create a portable mundane object, I may do so on an on-turn action as part of whatever action I take. This object may be a permanent creation or allowed to disappear afterwards at your discretion. Your daily labor on projects is worth 1,000 laborers per level. This gift is of no use to a godbound who has not bound this word. I don't know what that means. So I mean, someone who doesn't have the word.
There are ways to, through miracles, to borrow those things. That's not something that somebody else can do to a miracle.
Great. So anyway, I'm really handy to have around. So let's see here. Hammer hand. Commit effort. Every weapon or unarmed attack you use will do at least 1d10 damage and is treated as a magic weapon. Against artificial constructs or inanimate objects, this damage roll is red straight. And that's essentially I was going for. I can destroy things really well.
Yow. Okay.
And then the other one is Faultless Repair. I can fix anything within with the available materials and tools up to a 10 by 10 height, 10-foot cube per level worth of objects or constructions. Can be made new, like new each round, provided it's not completely destroyed. Every form of rot, decay, damage, and corruption is fixed, even for perishables such as foodstuffs. If repairing magic or enchanted items, effort is committed for the scene with each use of the gift.
So we'll need you to kind of figure out what the name of this place is and this king, put that on the map. This island that they were exiled to, these widows, you left. How long ago do you think you left?
I think relatively new. I mean, relatively recently. Okay. Like, I'm goofy enough to naive enough to get on the ship with a nightmare boy and a death sailor. So, just kind of like, okay, you're going somewhere. I am too, and I don't know where. So, I'm thinking pretty young.
Are the widows still alive? Are some of them still alive?
Oh yeah, they're all alive.
Okay.
I mean, I shouldn't say they're all alive. They are alive. We were able to make it. I think some were probably lost early on. But yes, that was the whole thing, is we actually managed to survive and do well.
Okay. Thank you. That gives a good sense of your character. You said they, her for pronouns?
Yes.
Okay. And Dan.
Yes, this is Professor Evedro. He was the youngest professor at the University of Jezitin Rajlaj, but he has since been terminated because he is very rude to everybody. He acquired his knowledge word first, and probably at a very, very young age. He's always been very knowledgeable. But he also started having an affinity towards the sun. His personality changes with the rise and fall of the sun. So in the heat of the day, he is Professor Evedro, but in the night, he is Ordevi, and he is still knowledgeable, and he's still very smart, but he is not haughty and arrogant. He is kindly and giving with his knowledge. So I created a little picture of him that shows the two sides of him. He is, let's say, early middle age, and when he is Professor Evedro, he's more on the early, he shows the early middle-aged part, and when he's Ordevi, he is definitely the middle-aged part. So, so as the sun rises and falls, so too does his personality shift and change. When he was kicked out of university, he went on a journey, and this is sort of how his journeying gift manifests itself to him. I've chosen 4 gifts. For journeying, it's called Opening the Way. He basically found that nothing really stood in his way. There were no obstacles, especially things that were kind of more assertive. This was something that he found when he was doing research as a professor as well. He could always find the knowledge that he was looking for, even knowledge that was supposed to be hidden or secured away. I have disclosed the flaw. This basically means that he can look at any person or institution and discover its weakness instantaneously. And as an arrogant jerk, this comes in very handy for him. I've got then 2 gifts related to the sun. One is called Purity of Brilliant Law. Honestly, I don't know how this fits into the character, but my son Harry told me I should take this gift. So here we are. And then Body of Burning Light. Basically, this means he just lights up real bright and nothing can hit him. And again, I feel like this is very much about the arrogance and him thinking he's brighter than anybody in the room at certain times of day.
This university, was it, a vast, a sprawling institution, or more of a single ivory tower kind of thing? What do you imagine?
I was imagining it like the biggest university in this archipelago.
Okay.
And it basically occupies a small island. So one of the small islands is the university. And it is the most prestigious institution, which of course is the only place he would see himself. But his student reviews just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So they had to kick him out.
And so you went to travel, and the third word, the journeying, manifested. How has that impacted your vision on who your character thinks they are?
That's interesting. I think he during the day, when he's arrogant, he realizes he believes the university was confining him, constraining him, and that he was meant to spread knowledge all over the world. When he's the more humble version of himself, or Devi, he realizes he has a lot to learn outside the university walls.
And let me just do this. Does he have a weapon? Is he carrying a weapon?
I think he's the Body of Burning Light basically lets him wield a magical weapon when he's fighting unarmed. So I think he's sort of studied lots of different unarmed martial arts over the years.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, that's very cool.
Would you like him to have a weapon? Do you need?
No, I like that. That's a great idea, especially with the sun, the Body Burning Light. Nice, right. Nice. All right, I think that gives us a good vision of each of these 4. What I'd like to do is take our 10-minute break here. When we come back, we'll look at building some connections, figuring out where we're starting, and we're going to assume that it's not a big boat. We'll talk about why it's not a big boat, but you have a boat that you're going to start with. So we'll take 10 minutes, okay? Hello and welcome. By the way, for those of you at home, this is the first time I've seen Dan's cat on camera there. Huzzah. Performative cat.
Willow.
So let me ask you this, Ransom. You are on a smaller ship now, perhaps one with maybe a dozen crew persons. So what's that, a sloop?
Yeah, probably so.
Okay. What happened to the bigger ship you were on?
Ooh, oh dearie dear. I think that we had. I think its captain and I had a mite of a falling out. I think that perhaps I was of the opinion that we should be doing some other things. And he had gotten a bit more into the violent aspects of raiding, and I just wasn't. That was not what I was hoping for with the company, and I had been serving as a mate, as an officer, and when he did that, I started voicing my opinion that it wasn't very good, and it caused enough division amongst the crew that he chose to put me off elsewhere rather than put me off as we were sailing.
Excellent. So let me ask you, we'll do your ship as kind of the assembly point. Eventually, everybody arrives there. People may have met before there, but who is the first person that you brought on board of the other three?
Ooh, that's very interesting. Well, I want to ask, Professor, are you out and about? Because what's bringing you out to sea?
I am seeking knowledge and or teaching the ignorant people of the world that, trying to enlighten them.
I think maybe that you were the first person that came on, and I saw it as this I wanted to explore, and I probably erroneously thought you would be a good source of income for our ship to transport you.
Yes, I have no money, and nor do I have any means for bringing money in. But maybe my university credentials you thought might help lift up the reputation of the ship.
There we go.
So that actually becomes my relationship question, Ransom. Ransom, what happened to change your opinion of Evedro or Devi? What occurred that has changed your opinion to a less exploitative, more positive one? Not necessarily full trust, if you want to hold a little bit on that, but what do you think occurred?
I think as the realization that you weren't going to be a lucrative passenger struck me. I think by then I had become interested with how intelligent and interested and how much you wanted to go out and discover things. Does that sound reasonable? And you actually do things on the ship that help us. I mean, you're kind of, just leading into a little of your journeying stuff. I think that you proved yourself a good crewmate.
Sounds
excellent. Tassos, let me ask you this: where do you think you were before you ended up on this boat? In a major city? Were you on the run? Were you just wandering?
Like on the run.
What were you on the run from?
There's lots of opportunities to bring up things that people don't want to remember or have brought up.
We're on the run from mundane forces or supernatural forces?
I think mundane, but not unpowerful.
And before you got on the boat and met these people, we'll assume that you're the second person to join, and then we'll have Threadless be the last. Before that, you had a dream about one of them. What did you dream? Like almost a dream that was strong enough that it was kind of outside your control. What did you dream, and what do you remember from the dream? Now, who was it?
Out of the two there, or all three of them?
All three. Yeah, open it up.
I think it was Threadless. So I think I saw her on this ship, like mending or stitching something into the sails. So I think whenever I get to the ship, there's this feeling of like, well, that's the place. This is the ship. But then this confusion as I look over the other two, and neither of them are the right person, though.
So you had some expectation before the arrival on this island. So let's ask that. So a ransom ship pulled up to this island that probably on some maps was marked as a place of exile, but that's never stopped you, and certainly you and the professor would be curious about why it was marked that way. Ransom. So you arrived, Threadless. Like, how did you like leaving and going on the ship happen?
I think that we sighted the ship, so I built the docks for it so it could come, because I told my mothers that this is when I was going to leave and see the world and take my vengeance.
Hi, Mom, going off to take my vengeance.
Exactly. I always do things that way. Don't need much time to plan, so I'm not used to planning, really.
And which of the three was the one you had the strongest reaction to, positive or negative, when you hopped on board? Especially since, well, both Ransom and Threadless, or rather, sorry, Ransom and Devi are clearly male, presented as male.
Uh-huh. I think that had nothing to do with that. I think it was entirely that Ransom's sense of this boat being his was, how do you say? I couldn't keep myself from saying to him that once I've repaired every bit of it, is it mine or is it his then? And that was it. It was like right away, we're kind of right up in each other's thing, because I couldn't help it, because the boat was like, just a kind of thing that I hadn't, since I knew nothing of sailing and the currents and those things, I hadn't built such a machine because it would have been a risk, a thing that I hadn't conceived of. So it is a thing that I have not conceived of, and now I wish to have it. So I will repair every bit of it, and then it will be mine. That is what I have declared.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Professor Evedro, what did you teach? Was it natural science? Was it lore? Was it law? Art, history? What do you think?
As an entry-level professor, I was sort of, it was kind of a liberal arts curriculum, right? So I had to teach a little bit of everything, which in some ways was satisfying because I'm genuinely curious about everything. I want to accumulate as much knowledge as possible. And in some ways, aggravating because it was clearly below me to teach this entry level stuff. But I think I specialize in sort of the social sciences and politics and geography and that kind of stuff, which helped me retroactively validate my separation from the university when I was like, look, if I'm interested in this stuff, I really need to travel the world.
Are things here most commonly in books, on scrolls, on those little like wooden slat scrolls? What do you think is the most common form of written language? Picture books with illuminations and ideograms. What do you think?
Oh, I want it to be weird.
Is there some unique material?
Yeah, I almost want it to be like organic, like we sort of inscribe things into a creature that was meant to be inscribed, but my imagination is not going much further than that.
So some sort of creature. Let's even say like some sort of insect that feeds on information. It loves having it. So essentially, it is inscribed on its shell, and then you can call it up and sort of flip through the pages of it.
Its wings kind of unfurl to kind of give you some more information.
So that is the high end, deluxe edition a book that you have there. All right. Amongst the three of your fellow Godbound who are here on the ship, which one most fascinates you?
I mean, I may be arrogant, but I think I am just sort of genuinely curious about people. I think, but I'm a person who studies the natural and the sort of physical world. And so Tassos's attachment to dreams and nightmares is, I think, sort of this forbidden knowledge that's kind of difficult for me to touch and fathom. So I think I'm genuinely kind of intrigued by that.
Interesting. All right.
I am intriguing. It makes sense.
You are.
Yep.
Okay, let me do this. So we are going to take up here with you on the ship. The weather has been reasonably clear the last few days. You are heading from the north to the south. Tyler, where were you in the north? What kind of place did your ship last dock at?
Let's see. I think we last docked at a rather small like town that kind of isolated. I think probably an island town, mostly fishermen and such, and we had done the bring in some things from the mainland and trade back out to get a little bit of whatever it is they produce, but also mainly to make sure we restocked.
Excellent. So a few days out, you've restocked your supplies, heading from north to south. And Tassos, what kind of goods do you think the ship has aboard right now?
got limited space, then Ransom probably would have brought on something valuable for its size. So, why not a load of those weird, like, book beetles?
Okay. So you have a set of unscored book beetles who are in their little stasis things, hard to come by.
Just on the edge of hitting maturity, ready to be inscribed in.
Mm-hmm. I like that. What do they smell like?
There's a little bit of that, like, weird smell that, like, a bunch of ladybugs or something sort of like stink bugs have,
Mm-hmm.
but drier and dustier than that.
Okay, I like that. I like that. And let me ask, Threadless, where are you headed to? You're moving from the north to the south. What's the place you're headed to?
Well, Ransom told me that he would go to the place where the castles have spires that are shaped like this, like onion
domes. Okay.
Yes, because that's where the king might be.
Okay. So I will. So you're heading south to kind of pursue your vengeance. So I'm going to ask Professor Evedro a question in just a second, but I want to set the scene here. On the map, I've put a little thing. We've got somebody's put a beautiful location for Rissos. We are in an area that across these straits, you'll see there's a little line that crosses them, is controlled by an empire that calls itself Lancena. And saying empire is probably a little overboard. They call themselves an empire because there used to be empires, and so they go to that. But it is called the Straits of Lancena, and there are great old, on either side, big stone pillars that have buildings on them that rise up from the water there. And this is, as you can see from the map, it's an important north-south transit point. And as you are coming up on this, you will see, Campton, that there are a lot of boats that have kind of come to anchor. And what you will look in the distance with your bird's eye view or with someone else's view, and you will see that there are great chains between those two great pillars that are essentially blocking that sea lane. Tell me something, Professor Evedro, tell me something about the Empire of Lancena.
I think what's unique about the Empire of Lancena is that they're really, tell me if this gets too close to home, there are really two peoples occupying the same space, but living in two different cultures and societies.
So we might have the east and the west portion of the empire across that straits,
yes,
that are together under maybe a unified rule, but there's definitely some strains in the representation of the two cultures there.
Yes, yeah, that sounds good.
So Ransom, when you see this blockage there, and we're talking a mile across, probably larger. So these are not like conventional chains. What do you want to do?
Well, I'll kind of pull the wrist over, kind of, and I'll shorten sail. And my guess is that they're planning on charging us a toll. I can't think of another good reason to be setting up a chain like this. Professor, you heard anything about that? I haven't been this way in a while.
It is not unusual for the internal tensions in this culture to explode out in a manner of speaking, so that other peoples, such as us, feel the impacts. They are perhaps expressing their frustrations with themselves on us and the rest of the travelers.
I ain't looking forward to paying any tolls just for us to pass through. Not to mention, I don't really have a whole lot. We're not flush like that. I'll kind of look over Threadless, Tassos, thoughts.
Just a chain, isn't it?
A big chain.
Break it. Just one link has to go.
My guess is they would not take particularly kindly to us breaking their chain.
Chain is operated by people. I'm good with people. I like to talk to them.
Yeah, Tassos. I have to admit, I'm more in favor of Tassos having a heart-to-heart than I am at breaking their chain. Threadless, I'm afraid if we break their chain, we may end up with some company chasing us.
I bet you could go pretty fast with this.
We might could outrun them, but we'll eventually want to come back up this way.
All right.
Yep, Captain Ransom, I have personally never encountered any problems with any sorts of security measures or barriers of this sort. I wonder what would happen if you sailed on.
Well, it may cause the same sort of problem, but at least getting a better look at it. Heck, Threadless, in the end, you may be right, and we just need to bust this. Anybody who's causing problems with trade, they can't be getting a whole bunch of friends. And, well, in the end, I think we could probably handle them, especially if Tassos, as I say, has a little tete-a-tete, so to speak.
And
I'm going to lean over to Tassos and go, what's a tete-a-tete?
and you'll start sailing forward closer so you can see the chains. There are two of them. One of them is definitely barnacled and old, like they pulled it up from dredged from the bottom. That's part of the thing. The other one is definitely newer. It doesn't have nearly the wear on it that the other one does. But you will see that there are some ships that are flying the flag of Lancena there. And you can see that they are stopping ships, as you would expect, to do that, review it. And it looks like you can see there's a ship up there, not much bigger than your own. And you'll see the Lancena ship pull away from that ship. It clearly done some inspection. And then you see Greek fire fly from the Lancena ship and hit this other ship and ignite the sails and ignite the wood of that ship.
Oh, that is uncalled for.
What do you do, Ransom?
There's nothing worse than fire on a ship. I mean, that's like a declaration of war almost. I suppose I'm going to go sailing. You know, I'm going to prepare. We may need to take on rescue some of these people here.
So your goal right now is kind of sail through between these ships, catch the wind as you can, use your powers to get up close by this ship. That's
yeah, and prepare like a small boat to go out and maybe rescue people if they're having to jump off.
Then let's do this. I think I actually want you to make a test here. Let's have you make we'll start simple here. Let's have you make a dexterity test.
All right. So I roll a single D20.
Yep. You're trying to get above a 3.
I got a 19.
19. So what does that look like? Like, does it look supernatural or does it look just amazingly skilled?
I think it just looks amazingly skilled. I think it's, you know, it's part of that just catching the wind just right, making sure maybe even to like bring ourselves up so that we could cut the wind going towards that other ship. So maybe to help keep the fire from spreading.
Sure. Yeah, they are distance away from other ships. It doesn't look like it'll spread. But there definitely is this military boarding vessel from Lancena that is within still striking distance of the ship that they just set on fire. Tassos, what are you doing as ship is cutting through the waves on up?
I suppose if Ransom is afraid of like people being trapped or injured or burning or dying on that ship, that's sort of what I'm paying attention to. So I'm studying it to see if I can see anybody on that ship, any movement, any cries, anything like that.
It looks to you like there are only a couple people alive on that ship, which says to you that the people who boarded may have already killed a good chunk of the crew. And they are like rushing to jump off into the water, but you can also see that there are bowmen on the Lancena ship, and they are clearly waiting for these people to jump out to shoot them with arrows. So you kind of do that. What is it like? Do your eyes change when you try to see a great distance, or do we see any of the mark of your gifts as you're doing this, Tassos?
I think there's like an increased glow in his eyes as he's like sweeping over the deck of the burning ship, and as he looks over at the archers that are on the Lancena ship, there's this like widening of his eyes, and like the set of archers are like reflected in them.
Nice. What about you, Threadless, when you see all, when this, as you're coming up on the boat, what are you doing? You are muted.
So the attention of the aggressor ship is still on the one that set a fire, or are they turning to pay attention to our boat?
They haven't quite, I think with the speed that you're coming up, they haven't quite caught notice of you. They're still, because if they still got the fire and smoke from that boat sort of obscuring the vision there. I think with that 19, Ransom is coming out from behind vessels used to block line of sight.
Okay. I suppose. Now, see, I could destroy this other ship without any problem, right? Could repair the other one. But I suppose since our captain has set out a little boat to assist the ones who have gone through,
Well, no, this is your ship moving up
moving up.
on it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I can do so many things. That's the thing. Okay. And I sort of turn to the captain and say, do you want me to strike at the other ship?
I don't really know what's happened here. But this, if they were legitimately just coming through, then it is insanity to burn a ship like this. However, they may have been pirates.
On Senna archers, they're getting ready to fire.
Wish we knew more.
Do I act or do I wait?
Let fly.
Before you let fly, let's see what Professor Evedro is doing.
I think.
Do they carry a plague?
I wonder if I light up really brightly, I will blind the archers so they cannot aim. Is that feasible?
Do you have that as a gift?
I don't. I thought this might be just a miracle because of
Exactly.
sunshine.
Exactly. So you wish to commit effort to blaze like the sun and blind everyone on that boat.
Yeah.
Okay. Commit the effort. These are lesser foes, or at least on your level. This is a mob. I don't think you have to roll to attack them. Tell me what that looks like. Like, what do they see? Do they see you burst into that, or is it like a mirror catches? What do they see before they're blinded?
Yeah, I think at one moment they just see us, the boat coming upon them, and in the next moment, their vision is just dazzled, like totally filled with bright light. I think the other Godbound are not as affected by it, so they see, a sort of change in color comes over me until I just sort of get very blindingly bright.
So Threadless, boom, that goes off, blinds them. What do you want to do?
You know that thing that fired the
Greek
the
fire?
Greek fire. Yeah, I wanna disable that. So I think I have hammer hand and the bolt that hits any inanimate object without any problem.
Okay.
So
let's have you roll to hit.
okay, I just have to not roll a 1. So let's see if I can do that because it is me. I rolled a 16.
Okay. Let me ask you this before you do that. I know you're committing right now, just temporarily, for the hammer hand. Were you also committing for the seeking flight, for the automatic, for the specialized hit, or are you just doing a standard attack here?
This was this is just a specialized attack because I have both hammer hand and bolt of
right.
Yeah.
So a big object
skill.
would have had AC 12 plus you would have plus 16 and 28 plus your attack bonus would be 29, and all you need is to beat a 20, and you would hit it. Roll a d10.
This is where it all goes wah, wah, wah.
And this damage is read straight.
A 3. Boom.
A 3. So this arrow flies out, hits into this thing, and cracks open that launcher. I don't think it's going to spill any Greek fire or anything on that, but it may slick some flammable things onto the deck. And I imagine as they're blinded and doing this, that there's people falling around. Ransom, are you going to try and like swing up close by so that people can get these people out of the water, or what?
I think I'm going to call someone over to take the helm, and I'm going to. How many people do I see in the water?
Just two.
I will leap and fly from the ship, and then dive into the water to grab hold of them. And I will give them my water breathing and swimming, and have them swimming back towards the ship.
And Tassus, what are you doing?
I guess I'd be working with Ransom to get those sailors out of the water.
Grab up looks like a woman and maybe a young man that you two will pull up out of the water. Ransom, what do you want to do then? You've lit a Lancena vessel up. You've come and rescued these people that they clearly were intending to kill. There are other Lancena vessels around that are probably now turning and maybe coming this way.
Yeah. So I think beating a hasty retreat might be our best.
Let me break the chain.
You know, you have two options. You know that Professor Evedro is very good at finding gaps through things if you don't want to break their chains. On the other hand, you also have your archer who could permanently break their chain.
I'm going to set sail for us heading straight through the gap, nodding over to the professor. You say you can get us through, but I am definitely not telling Threadless what to do or not to do. So
okay, so Professor Evedro, what does it look like when you find your way through? How do you do that?
I think this takes a little bit of concentrating on the barrier in front of me, because I have to commit effort to create a hole in security. The hole will allow you and your allies a clear path into or past a place. My read of this is that this doesn't create a permanent break in the security, and so there's something that happens that allows us to go through. And go ahead.
Do you know what you want? I have an idea. If
I had an idea.
Oh, great.
So I think a kind of visible ripple, maybe sunlight, sort of like dawn light, kind of comes off of me and sort of heads towards the pillars. And it turns out the chains kind of go through a hole in the pillar. They're not attached to the pillar, and that there's some kind of winch mechanism that holds the chain, and it suddenly starts to kind of unravel more and more and more.
Yeah, there's some people up there who man the chain, have troops to turn it, and something gives way up in that mechanism, and it starts to spin free. And right where you're at, Ransom, the chain that, there are two of them, so they kind of go, one covers one way, one covers the other, drops down so that you can sail over it threadless.
And we'll break the chain.
Okay.
Yes. And I probably, yeah. So, and I will do the thing with the seeking flight, essentially where I do commit for the scene, so that I just can fire at it until it's done.
So what does that look like? Are you breaking both chains or just one of them?
Question. Yeah. Are they connected to the same winch or separate winches?
There's two chains that are on, looks like they're on different winches on either side.
Both belong to the same forces. I can see the.
Well, this is the Empire.
I hate them all. Led by kings, and kings must be Thai. So, okay, yeah, I'm good with it. So, yes, I think I will take both of the chains out.
Okay, tell me what that looks like, because we know that you can with enough time, unless you were to roll one after one after one, you can shatter these.
Right.
What does that look like?
I think it looks like her casually at the back of the ship, just plonking out into the thing. I don't like if you see her. But the thing is every time the arrow strikes, it does this. It hits, and the whole thing reverberates, and then for a moment you can kind of see like this set of threads that's like that everything in that plane is caught in, and that there's like this tear starting to form, and that it's really just almost like that fabric that she's beating her arrows through, not the chain itself.
And I imagine that we see these pursuing vessels coming up, and then there's that enormous crack, big, I mean, massive sea chains. And one of them is cracked, suspended, splits in half, and that chain falls, and it weighs tons, and it hits that water. We'll say it catches the prow of one of the ships, but it's just the wave goes falling back. Any other Imperial ships that are close enough are forced to turn to keep away. But Ransom, you keep sailing.
And since we, I think Tassos had taken these people as I'd gone back to the thing. I will have kind of looked at Tassos at these people, and can you keep an eye on them?
Yes, I think I will. Tassos will lean in very close to the woman and stare directly into her eyes. What's she most afraid of?
Right now, probably still the Imperials. You can see echoes of what just happened. That they boarded, something happened, they cut down the people, and they set the ship aflame. And she's terrified. I mean, because there's still vessels of this kingdom around. That's like foremost in her mind.
Oh no, that's stupid. That's very stupid. You're stupid. Stop that. They're not catching up. Stop it. I'm just going to shuffle that fear right out of her mind.
Okay. And how do we know on screen that has occurred?
I think like we've seen her like shaking and her eyes darting back and forth to all the ships that are still within sight. And as he likes admonishing her, like, stop that. She just stills. She sort of like smiles a little bit, and she turns to her companion and starts talking about how we've gotten away from them. They never catch up with us. We're safe now.
And we will see your ship glide through the water, outdistancing pursuit, and until we probably see the sails, stops. Everybody can kind of catch their breath, because I imagine at that speed it's harrowing for a while for any but the Godbound. And there's probably still the smell of smoke on these people, and the woman, the boy doesn't seem to talk, and like not from this incident, but seems to be mute. And the woman will say, thank you for saving us. Who are you people?
I'm Ransom, and kind of motion around and introduce. What happened back there?
We'd heard that there was a new ruler in Lansena that had taken the throne, had taken a foreign queen, and was in command. and there were tolls that you pay as you pass through the straits. We know that. But they boarded the ship, and they had an inspector in robes. They called him a Hesiarch, and he had a device, an object that he went through, and he went and when he came to, and he points to the young man and his sister, there was a glow from the object, and then he stopped talking, and they left. And the next thing we knew, they were cutting down the rest of the crew. And then they, as you saw, they set fire to the vessel. They did not explain themselves.
Cock an eye all around. Have you heard of this before, Evedro?
I sense that maybe there's been more and more of this kind of activity going on. Lol, does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think you will look at the boy, and I think you have the word of knowledge, and you can tell there's something different about him. He's not necessarily a godbound, but he clearly has some magical power, some magical talent. Just that, and you've probably seen this before. People who have these kinds of sorceress gifts and aren't trained can do things, and sometimes the magic turns back on them. And yeah, you're pretty sure that's what they were looking for.
Right. I do think that we've heard rumors that maybe more and more of these children are starting to appear, and that there are, you called them Hesiarchs?
Yeah, this Hesiarch is what this inspector they have, what they called him.
And maybe they're called different things in different areas of the archipelago, but they all kind of serve the same function.
And in most cases, it's to find people with talent, but this seems like an aggressive overreaction. I don't think you've ever really heard of these inspections leading to this kind of violent reaction.
Like a witch hunter. I'll kind of look over at the kid with a little more concern, but well, you're safe now. We can. Where were you headed?
We were headed south to Longstone. I have family there, and we had booked passage.
How are you related to the boy?
I guess you could say I'm an aunt. He and his sister were orphaned in the village, and they were treated strange. People could tell they were unusual, and the head man, when I volunteered to take them elsewhere, gave me money for the passage. But his sister died in the fire.
I'll look over and sorry, kid. And I mean it sincerely.
Right.
I do not. Tassos, might you figure out what the boy is afraid of?
I'm fine. I mean, children are usually fairly simple and boring, but I can at least look.
Just humor me, Tassos.
Kneel down and sort of take the child's chin in his hand and turn his head towards him. It's his greatest fear.
He is afraid of the dark heart of the woods, the corrupted heart that sits at the edge of the jungle, that reaches in dark, that moves from place to place, the walker behind the trees, the one who touched him and gave him these gifts and has sent him out into the world like a seed to bloom elsewhere.
I like this one. You can't have him. He's mine.
Threadless, a magic detecting machine? That sounded like what that guy had.
Oh, I can see if I can put something together. And I kind of look at the kid and I'm like, so do you want to help me build the machine? I mean, it's the first step on getting vengeance.
Kind of looks and like he kind of doesn't quite understand what you mean, but he nods. You can tell he's used to when he's asked or told to do things, he does them.
All right. That's a good first sign. All right. And I will ask what the machine looked like because that's all I need is just that sense of shape. And then I will build my own crazy thing.
Yeah, it's clearly a magical device. So it's not a mundane one, but you might be able to build something that would last for usage, that kind of thing. So we have some evil on the waves. We have a kingdom to deal with. We have some threats in the air. We'll figure out where you're going to next time. I think this is a good place for us to stop, and we'll take up, decide whether you wish to push on to your destination, whether you wish to go to Longstone, or whether you wish to return back to Lansena and maybe deal with them there. It's up to you, but we'll talk about that next time. Does that sound cool? Okay.
Yeah, I think just as a little thing with that scene with Threadless and the kid after she's done asking some questions, he's answering like Tessa's just very antsy and sort of agitated in the background. And as soon as it seems like Threadless, like, oh, okay, I think that's enough. Tessa sweeps in with a, you are very tired now. You should sleep. Come with me. You are tired.
And he will. I mean, you can. His exhaustion. You can easily manipulate that gesture, and he will fall into a deep and restful slumber.
Carry him towards the below decks.
All right, I am going to. Let's do just a quick stars and wishes. Stars being things you like, and wishes being like, okay, now we kind of seen these characters. We've got the palette on the table. What would you like to see in the next session or two? Let's start with you, Sherry.
I would like to topple some kingdoms.
Topple kingdoms. Okay, so we start with your wishes. Topple kingdoms. Okay. Any stars?
All the stars. This was super fun. These characters are built differently than I mean, you get those words and you think, oh yeah, I know what I've got. No, none of you are exactly what I would have thought when I saw the words. So it's fun and delightful, and yeah, I'm looking forward to us. How should we say? Getting into our groove because it feels like there's one just waiting for us. So pretty good.
And we, speaking of during Down Kingdoms, Professor Evedro did establish the fact of the division within that kingdom. So there is a weakness, there is a crack there that you've established. So
and the other thing is these kids popping up.
Yes. Dan, stars, wishes?
I love this game. I love this. This is sort of like a ragtag Firefly kind of crew where we're really all just sort of happened to be on the ship at the same time. And the captain is sort of barely keeping control over these other personalities. And I had no idea that that's what we were going to be playing. And I love it even more. I had the artifice tag word last time. And Sherry, I just love kind of where you're going with that, how it's fitting into your vengeance angle. That just feels really, that just feels really cool. And we're going to do a lot of fun stuff with that. And I think more than most other games, I have a really good sense of like these characters' personalities too, which is great because they're all powerful. So really, I think the fun is watching them kind of interact and deal with their personality foibles, shall we say. Wishes for me are I really want to see how Evedro and Threadless kind of vibe a little bit, because it never occurred to him to take revenge on the university system. And I wonder if that is going to, like, now that the seed has been
Does the university have kings? Because kings must be brought down.
Evedro will certainly spin it that way when he talks to you about it. Yes. And I love the idea of us maybe hitting kind of a few different locations around here. So I would plant that as a wish to, like, let's really explore this land.
Absolutely. Tyler, let's come to you.
All righty. Well, huge stars for getting these characters on the board. I do like them a lot. I am interested to see how they're going to develop and how we get along. But I think the professor is very interesting. I like the sun aspect going into it. I think that's going to be super cool. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how right now we do feel a little bit like, why the hell are we together? And I almost think that the professor and Ransom have like a greater reasoning for being together. So I'd love to see kind of a friendship in there, maybe that's a wishy bit, but at least a reason that we are traveling together. I could see going well.
I think Ransom finds Ordevi, which is the nice version, a good kind of drinking buddy type thing, if that's just in concept. And Evedro is annoying, but he's worth keeping around because in the evenings, Ordevi is easy to talk to.
And I think Tassos is fascinating. I can't wait to see more of what is going on there. That is so frightening, but at the same time, the possibilities are so interesting. And Sherry, holy crap. You are fearsomely, terrifyingly focused on this smashing down of the structure, and I think that is super cool. I have a feeling Ransom is scared to death of it, but I find it super cool. And paced out beautifully. You got, I mean, you hit your timing on get these characters together right there at the 9:30 mark for a break. I like bringing our stuff up into the opening scenes. That was super cool. I'm really enjoying the setting. I think the setting is very nice. Wishes, I got stuck a little in paralysis on how to act. And I think it's because I yet to solidify in my mind how I would have reacted there. I was weighing variables, and that slowed us down. I wish I'd have been a bit more decisive, because I think Ransom is. It just Tyler was not. So I've got to solidify that character in better.
I will say, there is always that challenge when you go from playing a lot of PBTA that has the games that kind of point you to certain kinds of actions. It is very free form. But this is a game where you can do a lot of stuff. We go, okay, let's make a roll, an attribute check to see if that happens, if it's particularly wild.
Yeah, I mean, I got more stuck in the idea of, should I attack this country out of the blue? And I was like, I don't know. But I think the character soliding down will make a difference in that. And so my big wish is more so than the situation. It's more to do with the characters. I want to get to know how we interact and why we're interacting together. Because right now it does feel a little disjointed on if our goals are at all similar.
Yeah, we'll try to do the Whedon pair-ups and get those interactions on the table. So a little more Firefly emulation. I think that's a perfect idea. Tassos, the fearmonger. And great moments there with that. Both times you use that. Stars, wishes.
I'm super looking forward to this. I love our very strange group, and I like this even more fractious than I thought world that we're sort of moving through here. I think that's interesting. I think the whole plague of witches hunt the evil child sort of storyline was neat there. Dan, I really love the duality ideal with Evedro and Ordevi, and I especially like tying it to the rising and falling of the sun. That's a really cool thematic way to approach it, and I look forward to meeting Ordevi. Also, I like having in looking at a pantheon sort of idea, I like having a nemesis god. You have sun, I have night. We can be opposing in some ways across that, and I think that'll be interesting to figure out. And Sherry, I loved how very straightforward Threadless was, and very so no one's done anything for 5, 6 seconds. Okay, I'm shooting something, it's gonna blow up. That was really great.
I wait, everything falls apart.
The center cannot hold.
Wishes, I definitely feel like I need to figure out more about this character, how I want to play Tassos, the sort of personality and motivation parts. I don't quite know how to role play them yet. And I need to figure out what they're going after and stuff. But as far as the particular, my new horror fear son is mine forever. No one's going to touch him. I love everything about it. I want to dig into his horrifying nightmares and find out what's going on there, and maybe roll around in them if they smell good enough. Yeah, other than seeing more weirdness of the world, that's my specific wish there.
Weirdness, capital W. I do have one wish, and I may roll this back here a little bit, because we do have a line on harm to children. I think the teens fall into that. So I may retcon that the sister is alive and that you picked her up as well, just so I keep myself on the right keel and I remember that we have those lines there, and I should have noted that beforehand. So we will retcon a little bit on that, just so that we're aligned with those lines and veils. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the recording.